Hey there folks, it's Blue here from Blue Bears Games, and for today's video, I will be showing you my newest original Pauper build that I'm calling Poison Control. There is a story to how this deck came about, but first, let's try and get some bills paid, shall we? I'd like to ask for your help in supporting my channel, which can be done in the following ways. Subscribing to the channel, sharing any of my content on your socials, watching some of my many other videos, purchasing Super Thanks, purchasing channel memberships, purchasing decks that you may have seen on this channel directly from me on the Blue Bears Games Facebook page, and/or visiting our sponsor at arcane-fortress.com and using discount code BLUEBEAR at checkout if you decide to purchase any of their amazing gaming supplies from them. Anything that you do will help support my channel immensely, and I thank you for it. Now that that is out of the way, let's get to today's video. So, like I said, there's a story to how this deck came about, but if you just want to skip ahead to the deck, I've timestamped the video so you can do so. The story goes as follows. A friend of mine that I met because of this very channel sent me a bunch of bulk that I often request. In return, they originally wanted a commander deck centered around dinosaurs. Not too long after this request was made, Wizards put out a precon that was good enough to fill this want, and roughly at the same time, this friend and their partner that they play with got into the Pauper format, so they asked if I could make them a Pauper deck instead. Coincidentally, I had been working on an original Pauper deck that I wanted to test out, but sadly, nobody I know that's close to me plays the format, so I presented the idea to them, and they said sure, let's do it. That's how we got to this point. So now, let me tell you a little bit about the deck. The name Poison Control should give you an idea of what's to come because the name says it all. Simply put, this is a black and blue, also known as Dimir colored deck, that strategy is control based and the win con is through poison counters. However, this is not your typical poison counter build that uses hexproof creatures with Infect and efficient creature buff spells to get your opponent to 10 poison counters through combat though. Nope, this one is quite different. What do I mean by that, you ask? Well, let me show you. At its very core, this deck is quite simple. There are 4 pieces to it. There's cards that initially will give an opponent poison counters. There's ways to add poison counters to them once they've got a poison counter. And then there are card draw and removal spells. So let's start off with how we're initially going to get poison counters on the opponent. It starts with a playset of Blighted Agent. A 2 to cast 1/1 that's unblockable that also has Infect. So that's one way. The problem with this format and using a creature to do so is that there's a lot of good removal spells. So to rectify that problem, I added spells that also do it. We start off with Prologue to Pheresis, a 2 to cast instant that says each opponent gets a poison counter, and then you draw a card, which is great because it adds more fuel to your hand so that you can do other things to get poison counters on your opponent. The next one that does poison counters initially is Infectious Inquiry, a 3 to cast sorcery that says you draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life, and then each opponent gets a poison counter. So more card draw, so it's more fuel, and another way to get poison counters initially onto your opponent. Got a play set of those. The last way is through a spell called Vraska's Fall. It says each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker and gets a poison counter for 3 at instant speed. The one thing about the Pauper format, there are no planeswalkers that are common, so this one will only make your opponent sacrifice a creature. And either way, you will get them to have a poison counter on them initially. The second set of cards is card draw, or specifically ways to get cards into your hand. And then they have other abilities that will add poison counters once they've gotten one, but won't initially give them. So up first is Experimental Augury, a 2 to cast instant that says look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, and then you proliferate. I will have proliferate up on the screen so you can read what it does, but basically if something has a counter on it, either a player or any other permanent, you can add an additional one that includes poison counters. So I got a play set of those. Then I have Contentious Plan, a 2 to cast sorcery that literally just says proliferate, draw a card. It adds fuel to your hand while also adding poison counters to somebody if they have them. And the last one that does this, that's card draw, is Steady Progress. This is an instant version of Contentious Plan. It costs 3 and again says proliferate, draw a card. Another playset. Then we've got removal. So the removal will do exactly the same thing as the card draw. It will do what it needs to do and then help you add poison counters after they've initially gotten one. So I start off with Whisper of the Dross, a 1 to cast instant that says target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn and then proliferate. I only have 2 of these in here because I'm actually testing out and I want the person who gets this deck to test it and tell me which one came out better. So the other 2 of is Grim Affliction, which is a 3 to cast instant that puts a -1/-1 counter on a creature and then you proliferate. I'm not sure which of these 2 will be better. One's cheaper to cast, one does permanent reduction of power and toughness, but they both proliferate. So I'm not sure which one's better. This may end up being one of those things where a sideboard might happen to come into play. I don't know yet. So I'm going to have them test it out. The next card is Anoint with Affliction, a 2 to cast instant that says exile target creature if it has a mana value of 3 or less. Early game, great, but then it has a second ability that says Corrupted, which means if your opponent has 3 or more poison counters on them, they are corrupted, and then you can just exile target creature. It doesn't have any caveats to it. So I got to play a set of those. And the final removal spell is called Cast Down, a 2 to cast instant that says destroy target non-legendary creature. From what I can gather, this is the most used and or best removal of creature spells in the format. I'm not 100% sure, but it looked like it when I did my research. The reason is because of the actual legendary creatures that are common, none of them are very good. So this will end up being the best possible scenario for a removal spell. So obviously there's a playset of those. And the lands are simple. The format only can use commons, so all of the dual lands that you can use will come into play tapped. So I went with Dismal Backwater because it allows you to gain life, which should help you stay alive long enough to get those 10 poison counters on your opponent. So obviously a playset of those. I have one lone Bazooka Bog because you just never know what you're going to face. There's not many Graveyard Recursion decks in the format, but there are some cards, so you never know. So blowing up somebody's graveyard could be beneficial. Unfortunately, this land enters play tapped, but at least it taps to add a black and not a colorless. The rest of the deck is basic lands. I believe it is 8 islands and then 7 swamps because the Bazooka Bog takes up a spot for the swamp. And that, my friends, is my newest original Pauper build that I'm calling Poison Control that I built for a friend. I started making this deck the moment Prologue to Pheresis was spoiled, and I'm glad to finally see it come to fruition. In my opinion, this is a unique take on the win by poison counters strategy, and I believe it will be good enough to win against a lot of the other top decks in the Pauper format. I did do a lot of research on the top Pauper decks, and the only weakness that I can see initially is against the aggro or burn decks. I believe it could be fast enough to beat those decks, but that's why I'm glad someone will be using it and giving me much needed feedback. I know what I think about the deck, but I'm curious to hear what you all think. Let me know in the comments section below, and to the new owner of this deck, you know how to reach me to let me know how well it does and give me feedback. Well folks, that's all for this week, but please go browse my channel and take a look at some of my many other videos, as I know you'll find others that you'll like. Before you go, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so you can be notified of any new videos that I put out, which is usually every Friday. Have a great day, and I hope to see you all real soon.